Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas here with you this morning, visiting with Judith Kukla. She is from Agape Christian Counseling. Good morning.
Good morning.
Talking about something so interesting today. First of all, the temperament factor, but you're also going to be telling us about brain health in general. First of all, Judith, let's talk about Agape Christian Counseling.
Sure.
What you do, where you are, and the kinds of things that you deal with.
Okay. Well, we founded Agape Christian Counseling in 2004, but we're in Stark County only for the last 4 years. We're located in Alliance, Ohio.
Okay, and who are basically your clientele? They come primarily from Stark County or all around Summit?
They really
beyond?
don't. They come from everywhere. And I even do phone counseling out of state.
Oh, my goodness, so even out of state.
Yes.
Are you primarily family counseling or what kinds of counseling?
No, I'm every kind of counselor.
Wow, all right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what that entails.
Right, we handle everything. We handle marital counseling, a lot of individual counseling. We do a lot with post-traumatic stress. We do a lot with this temperament testing. This is basically how I counsel off of a temperament test that I give the clients usually on their first visit.
Very interesting. So that is different. That would be something that would set you apart. So someone comes to speak with you about some issues that they're going through. The first thing is a temperament test. Tell us why. Where did that come from?
Well, usually if you go to a counselor, and I worked in the secular field for 20 years in Cleveland as a mental health case manager, usually when you go to a counselor, they have their own chosen strategies. There are so many things to choose from. Temperament therapy is completely different. It is based on the client's personal temperament. So it's uniquely designed for them in a way that we can present it as a counselor in a way that they can be able to receive it, because you can't present to everyone the same. We are all so different.
It's not one size fits all.
No, it definitely isn't.
Judith, what is our temperament?
Well, that's an interesting question, because people get temperament, personality, and character all mixed up, but it isn't. Temperament is the inborn part of a man that determines how he reacts to people, places, and things. It pinpoints our perception of ourselves and those that love us. It's also the determining factor in how well we handle the stresses and the pressures of life. It can be defined as spiritual genetics, God's imprint on each one of us.
That's so interesting. So you're talking more about how we react to situations in our environment and so forth. We all react differently.
Correct, based on our inborn temperament. Now, personality is self-selected, and it's expressed in the way we perceive how we must behave to survive in this world.
That is fascinating. Let me stop you right there, because I know so many people who are, I would describe as extremely outgoing, but will say, I'm very shy, and they say, I just overcompensate for that. So you're saying, yes, that's true, huh?
I'm saying that you're going to go back to your temperament. I say that, no matter what, you can present one way at home, and you can present a different way at work, and all of that is personality. So character and personality have nothing to do with temperament. You're going to revert back to your temperament.
Where does it come from? Are we born with our temperament? Is it nurture or nature?
Oh, it's definitely nature, because personality is a mask. We just say that when we present somebody with their temperament findings, and the way that happens, let me just go into that for a moment.
Sure.
We give them a temperament test, costs $75, and we just send it to the National Christian Counselors Association. So it's computerized, and they send back the results, and we give that to the people, and they can keep that. It will never change. I personally tested that with my granddaughter. I did the temperament test 15 years apart. It was exactly the same.
Really?
Really. So that if you give someone a test at 20 and at 70, that temperament test will not change.
So our temperament cannot change.
No.
Are there good temperaments and bad temperaments?
No.
They're all just different temperaments. Tell us the different types of temperaments that there are.
Okay, sure. Well, basically, there's 3 specific areas. Inclusion means the intellect. Control means the will or the willpower, and affection means our emotions.
So we are a combination of those three things.
And those are the three things that we test. Now, when we receive the findings, the people are very surprised. They'll say things like, well, I knew I thought like that, but I didn't understand the depth of it. And I can give you a quick example. If someone in the area of affection is in a marriage situation and you have a person that's a huggy person and that person's temperament shows that this person doesn't want to be touched, that's going to cause a rift. But once you give that spouse the temperament findings, they understand how their spouse is, and then they can alter and adjust the way that they come together.
Sometimes some of what you're describing sounds to me a lot like the love languages that we hear about, that someone, as you say, is very affectionate as far as touching. Some people need gifts. Some people need adulation. And so for some people, it's an act of service. And there are some others.
Yes.
But is that similar to what you're talking about?
It's really not similar. Temperament is different because it goes into a great depth about a person. And if you relate to a person and it's against the way that they think, like in the area of control, some people want to be controlled and some people want no control. So we have a scale. It's from 1 to 9. It comes back with their test, and we show the counselee that, and it shows how much they want to be controlled and how much they want control. So if you have people in a relationship or even in a job, this can be really a determining factor on how successful they will be.
Well, it sounds to me, too, that we might be talking about a codependent relationship. If you've got somebody who just wants to be controlled and another person who wants to control, it sounds to me like we should be encouraging both to
to
grow,
compromise.
Yes, come together in some way, not just have one completely dominating the other.
Right.
Am I hitting that right?
You are. And when they see the findings, that's what we work on with the counseling afterward. Now, let me just tell you that there are 5 factors, and these are 5 areas that temperament affects. And the first one is finding a career that's most comfortable for us. The second one is finding hobbies that bring the most satisfaction and enjoyment. The third one is how we make decisions and how we take on responsibilities. The fourth is how dependent or independent we are. And lastly, our spiritual development.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So temperament affects our spiritual development as well. Talk about that a little bit. In what ways does this become entwined with how we grow spiritually? Because we're not talking about our personality. It sounds like you're even talking about whether a person is teachable or not.
Right, and how they're going to relate to God. And that's going to be shown in the temperament. So, you wonder why some people gravitate toward God, openly and freely, and some people just really don't have an open heart toward God. But once they see their temperament, they are able to then understand. And people don't understand really how they think and who they are.
But you're talking about the same God that created them with that temperament.
It doesn't matter.
It
doesn't matter. It's all about their perception, And everyone knows God, and they know that they need God, but the way that they can receive Him, and that will be shown on the temperament findings.
So interesting. We're speaking with Judith Kukla. She is with Agape Christian Counseling. You are a counselor there, or you oversee? Tell me your...
well, I'm the founder.
Founder of it.
Yes.
And are you also the founder of this temperament factor? Because this is fascinating stuff.
No, actually, it's from the National Christian Counselors Association, and I am a certified temperament therapist.
And I'm not familiar with this before. You're the first person who's talked about it that I've heard of. Is this unique to the Agape Christian Counseling in our area, or are there others?
I really don't know if there are any more. I haven't heard that there are people doing that in this area, but this is worldwide. I mean, this is in every country.
Well, let's talk about choosing a mate. Let's talk about where it gets to marriage and how two people with completely different temperaments go into a marriage certain that they can change the other person to be
Correct.
exactly what they want them to be.
Yes.
How does this work?
Well, both people take the test, and then they give the test to the other person. And then the counselor works with them one by one individually and goes through all of the things. Let's just say that in the area of control, which is a big issue in marriage, so they'll have maybe 15 different things that it will say about the person. No right or wrong, no good or bad, just perception. And if you would comply with what that person needs, there will be peace. But when you come against that, and if your temperament doesn't, or if it conflicts with
Yes.
that other person's because of your temperament, you definitely need counseling to be able to figure out ways to come together, because harmony and peace is a goal.
Now, your temperaments do not change, but personalities can.
Absolutely.
And the way you navigate your temperament may. So you might say people 50, 60 years down the road after a marriage, you see them not speaking to each other. You see them being, the grumpy old man
Exactly.
and so forth. How do we not go there?
Well, we try to do this as soon as possible. To be honest with you, the best time to do this is before marriage.
Oh, certainly.
And I really believe that if people did this before marriage, we would save a lot of marriages.
Or prevent them.
Exactly. That's true. It really is.
I just wondered, have you ever said to somebody, your two temperaments,
Well-
oil and water?
To be honest with you, I recently had a couple that they wanted to get married, and they weren't young. They were in their mid-40s, and I really encouraged the temperament test, and they declined, and they stayed married for 8 days.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
Really?
that's the truth.
It reared its head that quickly.
Right, and if they would have taken the test, there would have been hope.
Judith, why not during dating? How does temperament matter so much after you've said I do?
Well, the earlier the better. I mean, if you could get people to take it during dating, that would be the ultimate thing. I really believe that churches should really incorporate this. This is being used in major companies throughout the United States in the hiring process, this test. It's also being used in colleges as a college exam, part of it. So this is something that really, helps in every area of their lives.
It does seem that as you are guiding somebody, particularly with who you're going to spend the rest of your life with in marriage,
Correct.
or who you're going to spend the bulk of your days with at a career,
Right.
It is important that people are able to, mesh as a family and operate as a body. Remind us again, control was one of the things. There were
Okay,
two others.
The first one was inclusion.
Inclusion, what is that?
That's the social part of us, really. It's the intellect. And, some people want to socialize and some people would rather be alone. Now, if you have that kind of combination, that's an issue.
Well, I most husbands' wives I know. There's going to be the wife is the social director and the husband would like to stay home.
Not always.
Okay, that can be opposite, huh?
Right.
So interesting. Well, because opposites tend to attract, are these always going to be battling each other, or do you
No.
find two people who birds of the feather flock together? Inclusion, they like the same amount. Control, they like the same amount.
No.
What works?
They just like each other, and they're attracted to each other for a lot of reasons, And then you have to work out. The bottom line is after you're married, then you begin to work out, and then you really get to know the other person. That's how it usually
then the
happens.
gloves are off.
Yes.
Okay, inclusion and how sociable a person is.
Right.
And then what was the second?
It's control. How much we want to be controlled and how much we want to control.
And what was the third then?
Affection.
Affection. Now, you can't tell me some people are not wanting any affection.
I am
Isn't that
telling you that.
really?
Yeah.
Because that seems like a deep, deep need for most people.
No. Some people are number one on a chart, and that means that they don't like to be touched. They're physically sexual, and they don't even want being touched even before that. I mean, this really tells the bottom line about how the person feels.
So let's get into career-wise. You mentioned not just marriage, but as far as what career path a person should take.
Right.
You present this at colleges and universities
I
and
do.
different places to help a person decide?
In high school, and that is one of the best times.
Wow.
When children are in high school or when they graduate, these young people are making their decisions on what they're going to major in, what they're going to seek, but it will show in the temperament test this person is not a people person. This person needs to work and quietly in alone without the stresses and pressures of another person. Therefore, they need to change their career path if they're going the wrong way, and that's when they'll become successful. And although they may complete what they're doing, and, we push through, and then when we're 40, we find out that we're really not, this isn't what we really wanted, then we start another career. We can avoid that.
Wow. We're talking with Judith Kukla of the Agape Christian Counseling. We're going to be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.